Union. I believe that Lenin was a genuine revolutionary, but I think the tragedy of Lenin's position was that he held on to a centralist view so overwhelming and so overbearing in a sense that he had contempt for democracy. Except inside the party, he had contempt for democracy, and he even banned democracy in the party temporarily, he said, when he forbade factions in the party. But he had a real contempt for democracy, which he regarded basically as a superstructural phenomenon. He was, in these respects, very much a narrow and vulgar Marxist, like certain people I know today. Syndicalism is different. First of all, there's syndicalism without anarcho, and there's anarcho-syndicalism. People like Big Bill Hayward of the IWW was not an anarchist. He was a syndicalist. And even Daniel de Leon had syndicalist views. And that is a very narrow productivist mentality. And that narrow productivist mentality works with the supposition that if you take over the factories and let the union run it, one big union, just taking the crudest syndicalist point of view, then at that particular point you would have a society that was non-capitalist because the capitalists wouldn't run it, and presumably a union that sought the welfare of the workers, so the workers through the union would run it. Now you know that that can be fraught with dangers. We have only to see what unions have become now. I mean, the enormous bureaucracy that has simply permeated the labor movement today. If you want to even, doesn't even call itself labor very much. But the anarcho-syndicalists believed in something that was even looser than that. They believed in a great deal of grassroots democracy. So they wanted workers to take over the factory. And the higher up you went in coordinating power in the factory, or for that matter in the land, where the land was collectivized, the less authority any higher layer on that pyramid had, until there was virtually, the authority was mainly coordinated. And the big problem of syndicalism, anarcho-syndicalism, is that it has an enormous Marxist component in that it believes in what is called the hegemony of the proletariat. And that is to say, the proletariat, in a sense, will lead the rest of society, and the real locus of any social struggle occurs in a factory. That's it. In other words, the struggle between wage labor and capital, not just between other forms of social thinking and capital, not any even anti-capitalist sentiments that might exist, say among women, say among people of color, you see, say among all different kinds of ethnic groups and whatever you like, and people of different status situations, but only in the factory. And that is where Parenti really can only say that, I mean, distort my remarks and say what he said, and I don't want to pick on him, frankly, but others do the same. That kind of vulgar economism or productivism excludes a vast percentage of the population, number one, and fails to recognize the extent to which wage labor can be privileged depending upon the country or the strata you're talking about. Wage labor can be privileged. Now, maybe today with all the layoffs and firings and plants shuffling around from one country to another, it doesn't seem so. But for a long period of time, the labor movement was, in a sense, privileged. And indeed, workers themselves very explicitly declared the high-paying industrial jobs that we had in Detroit will now go down to either the South, where they'll become low-paying jobs, or will be transported over to Mexico, where they'll be the lowest-paying jobs, and words to that effect. But there you see the mentality that is at work.
Many people find it difficult to remain revolutionary for long periods of time. As we mentioned at the beginning, you're in your 73rd year, and still you're a revolutionary. What does it take to remain a revolutionary for the long term?
First of all, your soul. For indeed, verily and truly, more so than if you joined a particular religious group, the importance of resisting the corrosive and irrational environment of capitalism can only take place if you remain a revolutionary and challenge the system and its fundamentals. Now, I'm not trying in any way whatever to sound like an evangelist, but today, as capitalism permeates every pore of the society, you have to continually engage in a struggle, even as an individual, against the irrationalities and the perversities that it continually produces in people who literally finally reach the end of their lives and are prepared to spit in their faces, at least in front of a mirror. It just is appalling what happens to people who give in unless absolutely necessary, like paying your taxes or whatever you like to stay out of jail, who give in to the present social order. Otherwise, it devours you. It changes you right down to the very molecular structure of your cells. And ultimately, you build up extremely unsavory rationalizations for why you're doing what you know to be, at least while you're still young, patently false and patently dehumanizing. So you're really struggling against your dehumanization, in a sense, from capitalism. And if you become fully cognizant of that, then afterward you begin to reinforce that struggle, unless you're prepared to agree that this is the best of all possible worlds. And then look at Somalia, and then look at Bosnia-Herzegovina, and look at what may well happen in many other parts of the world, as almost a mere certainty, and come to terms with the system. So you continually have to struggle against it. Now, what is very important in addition to that is the development of a coherent outlook, which is one of the reasons why postmodernism is so vicious. To bring your ideas together, to show the connections, how one emerges from the other, not to force artificial connections onto the situation, but at least to show, to demonstrate the connections, to make them theoretically coherent so that they have meaning, however irrational they may be, reinforces your resistance. And partly reinforces your resistance, first of all, because it gives you a sense of meaning to your resistance. You know it's happening. And still, secondly, gives you the only basis for hope that will totally change the society, for a hope that will lead you to strive to change the society. So you're fighting, first of all, for your very humanity in being a revolutionary, because otherwise capitalism blankets everything. If it could take up Ben and Jerry, take it from me, it will take up any postmodernist lecturer in one university or another, or any youngster, who looks at MTV. If finally, in addition to all of these two reasons, it alone offers you a basis for a hope, if not in your own lifetime, then at least sometime in the future. And it gives you a sense of direction about what the future can be, not merely what the future is, or seems to be, because of the way things are today. And this involves a way of thinking. This is what I call dialectical naturalism. I build my ideas on the potentialities of human beings. And no small measure, these potentialities are simply my own private potentialities. If I believe in freedom, and I've tried to define it, if I believe in self-consciousness, if I believe in cooperation, if I have an ethics of complementarity, why can't anyone else have it? What are the circumstances that entered into my life that should make me something very special? I believe that this is something that everyone can have, provided that they are educated, provided that they are informed, provided they look at the reality that they inquire, not through a television screen, but through genuine experience. A second thing is, having looked at the potentialities of human beings to cooperate, and I can go back into history and show marvelous examples of this, and to be free, I can show marvelous examples of that as well, small as they may be, incidental or marginal as they may be, and to have an ethics of complementarity in which people feel they're complementing, not dominating each other. Then afterward I say that this lies within the realm of human potentiality. Now, what are the conditions that could make these potentialities unfold in the same sense that a child unfolds from a fetus, becomes a baby, and